Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I knew from the minute I read the Spec rework article back on Thursday that I was going to need to dedicate an entire video to this subject, because the news that we got in that, some particular parts of the news, I should say, are major, and things I never thought Massive would take on, especially now that we're into year 3 of the Division 2, but they have. And while I am incredibly excited about what some of these changes could mean for PvP, I'm also skeptical to a degree, and I think it's paramount that we cover this and look back on some of Division's history, so let's get into it. I wanted to note quickly, if you are unaware, we are currently running a giveaway in celebration of reaching 10k subscribers on the channel. The prize is a $50 gift card of the gaming platform of your choice, and all you have to do to enter is subscribe. If you want the full details and other ways you can enter in, be sure to check out the video I'm linking in the top corner right now. Alright, instant armor kits. Let me be very clear from the start here. I am very hyped for this change. I think it has the potential to make Division 2 PvP more competitive, fun, and dynamic than it has ever been before. However, I am also skeptical of that for a few reasons. One, because the concept of the changes they're going to be introducing are just massive. 2, the scale at which this will impact the game, and 3, Massive's track record with PvP development. Because remember, Red Storm is no longer there to help them out with that end of things. On paper, that wouldn't appear to be a foolproof outcome of success. However, I'm absolutely optimistic, and I hope they'll nail it. But I want to discuss the challenging road that they have ahead of them to reach that point. So to begin, let's recap exactly what we were told in the recent Intelligence Annex episode regarding specific PvP changes in relation to specializations. I'll link that article down below if you haven't seen it or you want to go check it out for yourselves. So here are the 2 big changes relevant to PvP. Let me read through them and then I will give my thoughts. The specialization tree focuses on 3 elements: signature weapons, armor kits, and grenades. For grenades and armor kits, we want to provide alternate uses for these consumables which may be triggered instantly in addition to their standard behavior. The trees permit agents to pick whether their armor kits and grenades have these alternate quick uses and invest additional specialization points to improve them. And then additionally, we have this other one. Additionally, we want the whole specialization tree to be valid in all game modes, and this means that we are introducing the signature weapons back to PvP. We want all players to enjoy the benefits from these new balancing efforts and the improved experience. To avoid seeing signature weapons become the ultimate ambush tools, agents will be treated the same way as named enemies when it comes to signature weapon damage. This will require significant balancing and tuning, so we will be watching build and player performance closely. So to start out with that first part, what I interpret from the wording is that if you want to, you can invest points into your spec tree to make your armor kits and grenades have different capabilities, namely have some sort of instant use functionality and buff. First off, I have no clue what that means for grenades, so I'm just going to avoid that topic. But for kits, there's already been a lot of discussion as to what this will mean. For the general consensus seems to be it won't just be like choose between an overtime armor kit or an instant one, because then why would anyone choose the overtime one, right? Instead, it seems like you'll have the choice of the regular 100% repair overtime armor kit, or alternatively an instant use one with a variety of different functionalities to choose from. So for example, maybe you get 20% armor back and then 50% damage mitigation for 10 seconds, or 40% armor back and then 30% increased healing for 10 seconds, or 60 armor, 40 weapon handling. You get the idea. That's what everyone is thinking they mean by this, and I think that's most likely correct. Even if kids don't fully heal you for 100% armor, these new ones, especially ones that can be upgraded in their potency, like the article made it sound like, those are going to have a major effect on PvP, whether Massive likes it or intends for it to or not. It's going to impact the type of builds people structure around that new functionality. It's going to change people's playstyles and the way they approach an encounter, and it's simply just going to change the flow of combat. So that's one part of it. And then the second part is the reintroduction of specialization weapons into PvP, specifically the Dark Zone, as these are still active to this day in Conflict, if you didn't know. Now, according to their wording, spec weapons in the DZ and maybe Conflict will now function similar to how they function with named enemies right now, where they deal considerably less damage than they do to normal enemies. Because quite frankly, I think spec weapons are pretty solidly tuned in PvE. Apart from like the crossbow and the rocket launcher, which I think both of those could probably use a buff, the other 4 handle great, and they actually do really solid damage against your normal enemy types. Not bosses, not named NPCs, but your regular NPCs. And so getting back to PvP, apparently they're reintroducing them with a reduced player damage setting, which is fine in concept. You know, I've always envisioned a sandbox where spec weapons could actually act as a really good deterrent, you could say, in PvP. You know, instead of trying to make them super strong with limited ammo, which is just hard to find the right equilibrium for, what would be really cool is if they were all decently good at crowd control. You know, you got you and a team of 4 and you got 8 people chasing you. If you're rogue, you go down a hallway, shoot your flamethrower down there, and instead of doing like insane amounts of damage and just wiping everyone, it applies like a, you know, considerably long burn, which slows people down and makes them stop to heal. Or, you know, you whip out your grenade launcher and pop off a few rounds to make the attacker slow down and bunker and cover for a second. That that type of usage and implementation would be cool to see in PvP, in my opinion. Will this current plan of theirs achieve that, or is it even trying to? I don't know. But obviously the common denominator between these two changes, and this is something I'm sure plenty of you know I have been skeptical about, is that Massive is legitimately taking the initiative to introduce some PvP changes, and I truly did not think they would attempt this. Beyond the regular balancing in new weapons and gear sets and skills and whatnot that are game-wide, they haven't attempted anything since, Red Storm left, because they no longer have Red Storm. That was always their fallback for PvP. And they haven't had them since TU6. That's when Red Storm departed to start working on Heartland. We haven't seen them do anything, like I said, with PvP ever since then. There is one exception to that, but I'll come back around to that in a minute. And so here we are. They're finally going to do it. And part of why I wanted to do this video is I've seen a lot of people online already saying, Massive's making PvP changes, they're going to screw it up, it's going to bomb, PvP is going to suck. And to a certain degree, I can understand the skepticism towards Massive's PvP ability. I can't, but at the same time, y'all have been asking for them to do something with PvP ever since Warlords, and so now that they are, the second they announce it, everyone is instantly shitting on them for doing so. So you kind of got to pick a side, is what I have to say. You can't really have it both ways. But I guess my more in-depth analysis and response to that notion is, and this is something I said on Twitter the other day, does Massive have a poor PvP track record? Yes. Have they made recent PvP mistakes? Yes. The Shrapnel Trap, most notably, was introduced in Season 3, and it's still very busted. But the distinction I made on Twitter is that the Shrapnel Trap is an example of something that was introduced game-wide, but just had poor implementation and balancing into PvP. But the conscious decision to add in some form of instant armor kits into the game, and the decision to specifically go in and re-add specialization weapons to PvP, those are conscious, deliberate choices to go in and alter the PvP landscape. And I have to believe that they would not choose to take on those challenges if they didn't have good reason, if they didn't have a specific plan to execute. They dodged PvP all of year 2, and I know in my heart that Massive would not go back on that now unless they had good reason, because we know their track record, and so do they. And so yeah, primarily for that reason, I'm optimistic. But specifically with the armor kit changes, it's going to be a massive undertaking for them to try and implement these in a balanced manner, or in a manner which will facilitate a new normal, quote-unquote, PvP playstyle, because the implementation of an instant armor kit fundamentally changes so much about PvP, and not only will they have to be concerned with how it interacts with the other core mechanics of the game, but they need to, go in and ensure that every talent will function properly in a balanced manner with it. How will Efficient work? How much stronger will this make Unbreakable, since you now would have the ability to have almost 2 burst heals, in a sense, at your disposal? Does this invalidate skill healing in PvP? Like, these are all questions and scenarios that the devs are going to have to take on. Is that a lot of work? Yes, absolutely yes. But like I said before, Yannick isn't dumb. Trick isn't dumb. The team knows what it takes to do their jobs, and they would not take on a particular, challenge of this magnitude without at least some level of confidence that they could pull it off. I mean, why would they take that risk on an update that has so much weighing on it? They could have easily just chosen to give PvP the cold shoulder once more. Well, would it have pissed some people off? Yeah, but at least you're not risking breaking half the game. And so I have no doubt in my mind that this is not a half-assed attempt. This was deliberate, this was calculated, and they have a desired outcome they're reaching for. But does this mean it's impossible for them to screw up? Not at all. The implementation of instant armor kits, the way that those function with pre-existing talents and sets, the damage values and strength of spec weapons in the DZ, a lot of it could go wrong. I just choose to remain optimistic that it won't, because of those reasons I laid out. Plus, we have a PTS coming before the update drops, which, if nothing else, always helps smoothen out PvP imbalance by just a little bit. Now, if you want an extra vote of confidence for all this going as well, let's not forget that the DZ revamps of TU8 was entirely Massive's doing. Red Storm had already been out of the picture for a while, and I, for one, thought that those were great. They gave the messaging that they intended the DZ to be for PvP-ready players, and that's exactly what it should be. They removed normalization from the non-occupied dark zones. Fantastic. They streamlined the rogue system a bit by removing the gray rogue status in the Thieves' Den, which personally I was in favor for, but I know not everyone was. And then they added an extra extraction to every DZ, which wasn't incredibly influential, but it didn't hurt in the long run. And so the one PvP venture Massive has taken since Red Storm's departure was a total success, in my opinion, and Warlords and TU8 was another very structured, planned, and very deliberate update to the game, similar to what I think this week's Intelligence Annex revealed to us that this new update is going to be as well. And it doesn't matter what your opinion on Warlords and TU8 was. A lot of people say that ruined PvP. I think it improved it, personally, but I'm not in the majority on that decision. But it doesn't matter necessarily what your opinion on it was. The devs had a clear vision of what they were striving for with that, and I think that's exactly what they do here as well. And so whether or not that's going to turn out well, who knows, but it means that they have a goal they're reaching for, and hopefully that's aligned with the PvP players' motivations and desires. So for those reasons and the others I discussed in the video, I have faith. Doesn't mean something can't go wrong, doesn't mean something won't, but I know for one that Massive wouldn't be heading down this path without good reason. I mean, hell, I never thought they would touch PvP like this. Who's to say the new game mode now won't include a PvP element? I think that's absolutely a much larger possibility now than it was before. I mean, before I thought there was barely any chance, but now I think there is at least a decent one that it could, and perhaps that is what prompted them to make and implement some of these changes to enhance the experience of where they'd like it to be at. But beyond all else, I for one am very curious to see how these changes will shake up the gameplay, builds, and strategy of PvP in The Division 2. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. What are your reactions and thoughts to seeing Massive take on an actually somewhat substantial addition to PvP in The Division 2? What are your current confidence levels as for how that's going to turn out? I have a feeling I know the direction the answers will skew in, but I'm curious nonetheless to hear what you will all have to say. That about does it for me, guys. We've got lots more to talk about in the coming days and weeks regarding Division 2's new updates, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.